Hello, my name is Dr. Michael Pierce. I'm a chiropractic neurologist, and I do work with children that have conditions that are amenable to interactive metronome treatments. Things like the developmental disorders of childhood, including autism, dyslexia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, Tourette's, and a whole host of other things. The general concept for interactive metronome is that as you time different parts of your body, you're involving an interaction between the frontal lobes and the cerebellum in the perception of timing events. So you send an order from your frontal lobe, and it goes down into your cerebellum and ends up coming out through your body. And then it comes back through your nerves to your parietal lobe, where you perceive it, and then gets cycled back through this frontal lobe and cerebellum again. All of this is timed by a structure in your medulla oblongata called the inferior olive. And this inferior olive is kind of like the pacemaker for movement in the brain. And that's one of the things that becomes off. That's described really well by a great book called Neurobehavioral Disorders of Childhood by Dr. Robert Melillo and Jerry Leisman. These are two authors that wrote just a fantastic book describing all these mechanisms if you want to know more. In addition, there are seminars and courses taught by Dr. Ted Carrick and his faculty in functional neurology, which describe how to diagnose and fix these types of treatments, of illnesses. To diagnose and treat these types of illnesses. Not all of them are curable. Many kids will never get better. Many kids will get better completely, and many kids will get better marginally. So we can't guarantee a cure for anyone, but there are certainly pathways that we can address and measure. The inferior olive is that structure in the medulla that is the pacemaker, and it fires a series of impulses that coordinate the cerebellum and that ultimately involve coordinating the thalamus. And that's the next thing that we talk about. The thalamus is this structure that exerts something called a gamma synchrony. Gamma synchrony is this wave of activation that goes across the brain at a certain cyclical fashion. So it's kind of like the rhythm of the brain, this gamma synchrony through the thalamus. And some of these kids have a difference where one thalamus, because there's two of them, one thalamus inside their brain is firing much slower than the other thalamus, which is firing much faster. And so these kids sometimes will even hear an impulse at different times through different hemispheres of their brain. So if one hemisphere is firing slower and one hemisphere is firing faster, then since this hemisphere hears from this ear, they might hear the sound that is made like this through this ear. It crosses over into this hemisphere, which is firing fast, and they register the sound. And then later, the sound is registered through this ear and the neurons that go to this hemisphere, which is firing slowly, and the child hears the sound a second time. So they end up hearing a sound twice, or processing images twice, because of this thalamus that's uncoordinated. So things that involve coordination and timing of both sides of the body and midline structures of the body are very therapeutic for the timing of the inferior olive in the medulla and for the thalamus in the brain.